it seems like Latin America has so far done pretty well at skirting this disaster. I mean, at least the last continent that really hasn't gotten hit, maybe other than Australia, but it's not looking good. Yesterday was really bad. Canada shut down their borders. Spain announced they were going to shut down their borders. I mean, Italy is already in self-quarantine. The UK announced that they were going to allow their population to get infected up to like 60% or something to develop this herd immunity, which I think is not going to work, but let them try. The US shut down their border to select countries and all of Europe for a short period of time. And, over the next week or so, as this gets worse, they'll probably just shut down their borders completely. I think every major first world country will definitely do that. But I'm curious as to where some of these other countries, these emerging markets, like Southeast Asia, how are they going to hold up? What are they going to do? Latin America, where we are right now, really hasn't broken out all that bad. Maybe with respect to Brazil, that's about it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how the next few weeks play out in terms of the virus and the market.
Yeah, and I mean, man, I tell you, social media is just a big freaking mess right now.
Yeah.
You'll have friends that their personality type leads them to be, I don't want to say overreactive because that's a little presumptuous, but highly reactive, shall we say. And
there's a lot. When you take a whole bunch of people and you force them to stay home, what else are they going to do?
Right.
They have a lot of options.
But it's also fun to look at some of the word coming out of China right now, because they had a huge head start on all this. And it looks like, if you believe the word coming out, is things are starting to turn around right now, that they're bouncing back. Where was that? Okay, so a friend of mine, he has a friend in Shenzhen that posted this. It's actually a really long post, so I'll skip to the important bits. Thought I'd post something regarding the virus, since I've already gone through the emotions most Americans are currently beginning to experience. He's making a few observations. Things have begun returning to normal here in Shenzhen. Online deliveries, which China runs on, have resumed at their normal speed. Restaurants are slowly reopening. Shopping centers seem mostly open, etc. We're required to wear masks in public and are subject to temperature checks upon entering almost any establishment. That's reasonable. I thought I might have contracted it last month because I had 2 random fever spikes during quarantine. I also had a bit of a dry cough. At 7 p.m. on February 27th, I walked over to the closest public hospital for testing, mainly to reassure my wife. I was expecting a chaotic and desperate scene, but actually found a well-organized operation tending to about 7 to 8 patients. Anyway, he just goes on about kind of like what the experience has been like and how things seem to be turning around right now. How he empathizes with everyone's reaction in the West right now, but is trying to kind of reassure everyone that it's just a process everyone will have to go through, and everything's fine on the other side. Just deal with it the best that you can. Now, because he is in Shenzhen, which is one of the more developed urban centers, maybe he has access to better services there than the rest of the country. Like maybe the countryside, smaller towns and stuff don't have their shit together nearly as well, but
right.
I like to look for the more optimistic, grains of hang in there, buddy.
I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic, obviously, and look for opportunities because, out of crisis comes opportunity.
Right.
But I really think we're just in the throes of this and it's really getting started. China's making a lot of progress because they're obviously a socialist regime, and they have the ability to control the outcome better than most. And there's mass sterilization of cities and towns right now on a pretty big scale.
And they're not above just rounding up a bunch of infected people and making them vanish.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll they'll emerge from this and they'll get back to what they're doing best at some point.
Yeah.
But I think as far as viruses go and how they work and the how malicious this one is, I think we're going to see a couple waves of it. And I think we're going through the first wave right now. The second wave will be a lot worse. It'll probably taper off by the time we get to this third wave, because you can't just completely wipe out a virus that's bigger than normal, that is more malicious, that's more dormant and hard to detect, and you really don't know where it is, and that can mutate with its half-life as quickly as many other viruses that we've seen in a long time. So it's very serious for that reason, and we don't know how it's going to react to different treatment methods. We don't know how it's going to react to any type of vaccine or method that we implement at some point in the future. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that's handled. But I think more importantly, what we're going to see is people continue freaking out and panicking, because the problem when you have a government that tells you to not panic and to remain calm and everything's fine, and then overnight they slash rates to zero, inject $500 billion, and then shut down the borders, that's going to freak people out. It's like you're sending all the wrong messages, and you're just asking for this global market to just completely collapse.
Oh, sure. And like, it's the kind of situation where it almost doesn't even matter what your message is, as long as you stick to it. So it's like, if you send opposing messages like that, then all people take away from it is either, okay, the government doesn't know shit, or there's some kind of a conspiratorial element to this. They're trying to capitalize on it. They're trying to mislead us for some reason. There's just mistrust, right? Right.
There are some people that think that there's some conspiracy behind this. I mean, obviously, when you're home, you definitely dive into that kind of stuff more. But I found some of it pretty interesting. I've even had some of my friends send me stuff, like people that I would consider very normal and baseline American, like some really conspiratorial crap. And it's surprising to me, but it's also kind of interesting that people are really diving into the weirdest shit, trying to figure out what's going on. But I mean, the most common one is that coronavirus is a giant facade to cover up the world's largest coup d'etat, so to say, taking out legacy governments, certain key people, creating a more free society, moving back to, or going into Jassara law, and ideas based around that. It's an interesting theory that has some validity, but with all these theories, it's hard to put fact to fiction.
So. Right, and it's not just little fringe groups. Like yesterday, number 7 on Google Trends was martial law, spelled MARSHAL. So this tells us that the normie masses are suddenly thinking these thoughts too, and they're Googling it as best they can.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. I know the former Iranian president actually sent a letter to the UN asking for a halt to the COVID-19 being used as a bioweapon. Right. There's a few countries and a lot of prominent people that actually think it is a bioweapon. And I think it's very plausible that it could have been, because it was targeting ACE2 receptors, which are more highly prominent within Asians overall. And that's why we saw it really break out and take down major Asian population centers early. But now that it's kind of mutated and it's really starting to target different groups of people for different reasons, that theory is starting to fall apart for me a little bit. But I mean, maybe at the same time, it's just it's just part of war. When you use a biological weapon, it's not something you can really control. So
sure. And I mean, on one hand, there's the potential for, questioning what was the initial intent. And then there's all the people that just capitalize on circumstances, which is probably most of them. what was
Right.
that line from Rahm Emanuel, right? Just don't let any good crisis go to waste.
Exactly.
It's an opportunity to leverage fear and get whatever you want done in a timely manner. So, and when people start behaving that way and capitalizing on the fear, it makes it look like maybe they had something to do with it, but the waters are so muddy and there's no way to sort fact from fiction. So I try to just keep a healthy distance from it.
Yeah, it's almost impossible, but I do like to, when I get bored, kind of dive into that stuff. It gives you something to do.
Yeah.
So it keeps your mind active. I mean, I was talking to my friend Clement about this the other day on, we did a Instagram live video. I saw you on there too, and I was like, oh shoot, I should hit him up. It's been way too long. I feel like an ass. And we were talking about the importance of having one foot in the door of reality and at the same time having the other foot of the door in, how would you say it? Not living in denial.
Right.
So there's obviously, you want to live in reality and be like, okay, this is what's really happening. So this is all that I can really control. So that's what I'll handle. But at the same time, you don't want to act like the world is unicorns and rainbows.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not. And if you live like that in denial that anything bad could possibly be going wrong, that you think your government is perfect and loves you and is going to take care of you, you're in denial of what the reality is. I mean, corruption exists, backdoor deals exist.
Oh, for sure.
I think a lot of people, choose to live in this societal bubble. And they would rather live in denial of what's really out there. And I think the more people have one foot in the door of reality and one in the door of not being in denial, wish I had a better word for that, but for ignorance, maybe.
Yeah, because I tend to think that most people seem to live in a fantasy state anyway, where they believe that they have a whole lot more influence on quote unquote the world than they really do. I've tried to wean myself off of the entire concept of the world, right? Because what is that? That's just a higher abstraction. That's a very muddy term basically refers to everything out there that you really don't have any control over.
Exactly.
It's everyone else's little spheres of influence, and your time and energy is so much better spent just focusing on yours, because you can actually do something with your own local environment, your own homestead, your family, your next door neighbors. That's where you actually have power. So worrying about what people in other cities and other countries and stuff, that just seems like a huge diversion.
Yeah, that I totally agree with that ideal and with that sentiment. I think it's really hard, and I think you probably know this as well, that when we have such a large population globally, it makes it hard to put together, a small little city-state or put together a small community and, in some ways isolated a little bit from the greater world and, have community guidelines, community values, community driven laws that, are based on individuality or libertarianism or anything like that.
Yep.
But I mean, as the global population, starts dwindling, going down, that becomes a little bit easier. And, I think there's a lot of people that are in favor of those kind of values that we also like, and maybe some of the wrong ways. So I'm worried that like some of these things that are happening are in effort to, depopulize the world at large, because we'd be better off with a much smaller population.
Yeah. And I mean, smaller population in what context though? I mean, if you're just talking about the planet as a whole, then I mean, for Christ's sake, there's room for many, many times the population that currently exists.
But people won't ever do that. People cluster. Right. People like being in communities, and that's
right. So that brings me back to it's not the population of the world that we're talking about. It's the population of communities. Right. And that's really just a management issue. And the way things are organized with these giant bloated nation states right now, it's not really a feasible framework to properly manage smaller communities. I mean, there's rumors floating around now that Queen Elizabeth is going to be stepping down soon. And when that happens, maybe Canada will be ready to break away from the monarchy. That's like one little step in the right direction. At least the British Empire can be properly, broken up, and the Commonwealth can kind of stop being a thing. And, there's all these little incremental steps that are happening, but they're so slow.
Yeah, it's hard to get anything major done like that when you're looking for a big change. But when you put people, at the precipice with a real crisis, that's when things really start happening.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of room for just technological solutions here too. It doesn't have to be left to government. Like, everyone gets stuck in this paradigm of like, oh, what is government going to do to fix this? Well, not everything is up to the government, like sometimes entrepreneurs need to step up and innovate solutions to specific problems. I mean, one of the little projects I'm kicking around here on the side, like, I don't know how far along the Shrug Out plan was when I talked to you last, but it's basically a incubator here at Fort Galt. One of the main projects that I'm focused on for that is an app that basically lets people sort themselves into tribes based on their values and their personal policies. For me, I eventually got to that point where even like the word law and the word right, as in like a human right, just lost meaning for me, because at the end of the day, they're just policies, that are glorified and elevated to this mental position of people believing that they're somehow objective or separate from our minds, when they're not. And I think we'd be far better served if we all just took the time to carefully craft our own personal policies, and then we could have an app that broadcast what that policy was at all times and interface with everyone else's phone that runs the same app. And everyone's phones could be constantly checking each other for compatibility and warning us whenever there's incompatible points to watch out for. And as augmented reality tech comes more mainstream, I see Apple's got a crap load of patents in this direction, and it looks like what they're planning to do is release a headset that interfaces with the phone. So the phone is like the brain, and you're seeing your heads up display through your glasses. So this is a perfect platform for this kind of thing, because as your phone is checking everyone around you for policy compatibility, it could be showing up in real time in your lens. You could be seeing like, okay, that guy's a commie, watch out for him. Or, hey, this guy's totally on the same page in these ways. You should totally strike up a conversation with him and talk about this and that. And I think as that is implemented just on a voluntary basis, it would help people just kind of sort into compatible groups that can actually function. Because when you have people that don't even agree on fundamentals, it's really hard to get them to play nice together and get things done. But it's almost like the sorting hat from Harry Potter, It just kind of scans your brain and says, oh, you belong in this house,
That would make things so much more simple to have an app that could do that. It almost feels very controlled, though. But it'd be kind of cool, because I want to see how that would work if you took it and did like a huge study with it, maybe 50, 100 people, and see how it's sorted. But I mean, bringing up technology like AR and VR, I think that's where the real innovation is going to happen this year while we're going through all these things. I mean, you have tons of people that are going to be stuck at home, tons of people that are having their lives shaken up, that aren't used to this. They're going to need other avenues. They're going to be forced into digital mediums like they really haven't before. And that's not just on their phone. That's them being curious, bored, and wanting to try new things.
Right.
And I think there's a huge opportunity for VR, Facebook and Oculus specifically, to take advantage of this. I already know Zuckerberg's been going out and buying up diagnostic companies and different ways to test for vaccines and stuff. So they're way ahead of the government, because the government's too slow. They want to make a profit off of it, obviously. And I know Amazon's doing similar things. So is Microsoft, Google, Gates Foundation, even though he weirdly stepped down from the board for Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway to focus on philanthropy, whatever he wants to do, I guess.
Right.
But I think there's a huge opportunity for big tech here, with how the big banks are getting a lot of pressure put on them with what's happening with the economy, with the cash withdrawals happening, people rushing to the banks, potential to see bank holidays, maybe banks shut down for quite a while. I don't think they can maintain these 0% interest rates. That are now basically zero. And all this cash flooding into the economy by the Fed. I think we're at a recipe for disaster with everything that's going on this year. And it could be the year that we see fiat in a lot of ways hyperinflate, collapse, and banks collapse. But big tech has also been pressing their thumb on that wound for a while. Mm-hmm. And with all the digital solutions you can offer for money, for financing and for loans and whatnot, the tech companies do it better and more efficiently than the banks do.
Yeah.
I go through tech companies all the time to pay for things and to get financing, and I don't even go into my local branch at Bank of America. Fuck them. They're too slow.
Absolutely. We definitely encourage our members here in Fort Galt, for instance, to use crypto as much as possible, because it just makes things so much simpler for everyone.
It does. And I think people are going to start realizing that once they finally need that solution. Obviously the market's sold off across the board because of the virus, but once people wake up and see the legacy financial markets start collapsing, then they're going to be like, okay, well, I got to put my money somewhere other than the dollar,
right?
Or I got to be able to have some better access other than relying on the bank. And then they'll look at crypto, they'll look at precious metals in some ways. They'll look at these tech companies and what's being offered, through Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and the Cash App. And, there's going to be a lot of options that just keep popping up. And I really think there's a huge opportunity to also invest in some of these tech companies because I think they have a bright future. And then when you're talking about augmented reality, trying to hit all these bullet points at once. I think Google is taking the approach of not going towards virtual reality because I think they know that market is cornered by Facebook right now. Mm-hmm. With Google Glass, they've been working on augmented solutions, that connect to your phone that are completely hands-free, that work with your iris in some ways. So I think they're going to just take a different approach on the industry. Because so many of these other tech companies, they're so focused on phones, tablets, and laptops. There's no point in getting competitive in that space when you could just go to the next thing. So, and I think that's going to be great innovation.
Yeah, and it affects every market. Like, don't limit your mind to thinking that this is just software on phones. Like, this will affect real estate. I mean, now is a great time for any would-be real estate developer to start thinking, okay, well, in this world where this technology is rolled out and becomes commonplace and part of our daily reality, what do people's lives look like? What facilities will they want? Like right now, for instance, in Canada, there's a huge shortage of starter homes, just cheap first-time homes for first-time home buyers. Huge shortage. Right. Anyone could jump in the game and start building those right now and do just fine. But going even further down, what does that look like when you minimize even further? Because minimalism is a huge rising trend, especially amongst our age group right now.
Oh, yeah.
For economic reasons, partially because nobody can afford to buy a big, quote unquote, proper house, right out of college, especially when they're loaded down with debt and everything. Mm-hmm. And then also they just don't want the hassle of managing all that stuff. Like there's a peace of mind that comes with paring things down and keeping things simple. And especially people are staying single longer. They're pursuing their career first and foremost. And like for me, for instance, like in Fort Galt here, we've got some normal sized accommodations, but we do have these smaller, just minimalistic rooms that are also quite popular that it's basically just room for a desk and a bed and storing some stuff. And people seem to be perfectly cool with that. Me, for instance, like right now, this studio that I'm in started its life as a shipping container. It was retrofitted with just like plastic paneling all over the walls and stuff. And it's not big by any means, but it's a very, very functional use of space. It provides all the essentials for shelter. It's got a little bathroom in it, so that's there. It's got all the lighting set up. It allows me to do like YouTube videos and everything, and there's room to sleep, and there's a nice desk. Like,
I love shipping containers, man. There's so many great alternative uses for all the containers are just lying around everywhere, and they're relatively portable too.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing with like the new flooring and the paneling and the bathroom and everything was about $5,000. Like,
yeah,
it's great because the truck can come and pick it up and move it anytime you want too.
It's great because I know back home, and you could get a big 20-something foot shipping container for anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000, depending on how new or old it is. And then any average Joe can just go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy what you need. And then, after maybe a few weeks of work, you have it completely retrofitted, put up some drywall if you want. You could cut into it and punch out windows and doors. And, it's really versatile. And I think with its minimalistic as people are getting in our generation and in the next generation, especially, I think they're worrying less and less about big homes or even big apartments, but looking for something that's new, nice, modern, but also affordable. These shipping container developments that they're putting together in certain places, whether it's for good or for pilots or whatever it's tested out, they seem to really work. And, there's also a lot of possibility for people that are, in poverty too, that need better options. Because
exactly, there's a whole hidden market that doesn't show up on the proper radars because they're populated by people that want to stay off of it. There's if you go to any tent city, for instance, in a expensive market like San Francisco or Vancouver or something, half the people in the tent city, they're not junkie bums. They're people that just hurt themselves and missed a paycheck, and now they're screwed. Or their wife left them, and now they're out on the, trying to find somewhere to crash. It's just people kind of stuck in a rut that just need a few months to get back on their feet. There's a huge market for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's really sustainable, and the fact that you can pick it up and move it to any location that's more desirable is great, because whether it's a plot of land you own or rent, or you could put it by any power source, you could put it by any water source or gas source. I did so much research into this, trying to learn when I had my mining operation at full go, and I was constantly looking for different ways to, create a shipping container full of mining rigs. I almost did it a couple of times, but I always had an issue getting the power company to wire it up. They just kept refusing to wire up a shipping container. I'm just like, so stupid. Like, who cares? Just do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I get that sorted, I would have done so many of them. But the ability to take something like that and design it to be whatever the hell you want for relatively little cash, and then set it wherever you want, that's just a whole new way at looking at homes. Like, I would rather have a smaller home and a whole lot of property than vice versa. So I think property is far, far more valuable. Having land, if you lived, that's like how these farmers have done well for so long. They'd have fairly minimal sized houses and then tons and tons of land that they worked on. I think we get back to that kind of lifestyle. Things get a lot better for many people, and, maybe spread out a little bit more and not live so close.
Oh, yeah. And I grew up on a small family farm, and the mentality that they have about their land and the relationship they have with it is very different than city folk assume that it must be. Like, if you just approach a farmer, like just going to a small town, find the one bar on Main Street, go in there and sit down, chat up some farmers, and you can ask them to drop a trailer or park something on their land.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to buy a big piece of land in order to use it. You can
they don't care.
No, it's like they have hunters that come. Like we used to have hunters that come up from the U.S. Because
Right.
we had this great spot to hunt, and we didn't care. They just go for it. We have a lake right there. We got like 100 acres of forest. Like just go for it. Like you can build little cabins in there and stuff, and it's no one cares that much. Just be respectful.
Yeah. I grew up in a small town in Oregon too. It was a lot like that. It was actually the first town that was pioneered in Oregon, Prineville, Oregon.
Wow.
So it's a very old town, well over 100 years old. But that mentality has never left, and it's a big farming town. It used to be a big mill town. They built their own train lines, connects to the main train line a long time ago. So there's a lot of pride in that town, but it's really cool because there are like a couple bars in town, and that's where everyone goes. So, you go through your daily week and everyone's farming or at the mill or herding cows and shit, or up hunting in the forest, going after cougars and shit. And then they come down for the weekend, you all sit at the bar and you talk about all your shit. And then, one guy's like, hey, I'm doing this Bitcoin thing. Can I put my shipping container on your farm? He's like, absolutely. And I'll pay you in tomatoes too. I'll give you a couple baskets of tomatoes every month. Okay, sure. Why not? That's fine with me.
Totally. And
that's how it works. No bureaucracy, straight to the point. Trading one service or product for another service or product. It's nice.
You just find out what it is that they're short on and would want. Like if it's a small town, maybe there's an older population too that would appreciate, somebody coming around to shovel snow, or, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. And there's a certain peace of mind that everyone has because they know that everything's going to be perfectly fine no matter what happens. Like even here, we're on top of a hill that's along the coast, and there's a village just down at the bottom of the hill, and there's farmers markets down there. So there's there's fishermen bring their catches in through there. There's people with farms all around and stuff. So like even if the shipping routes all got cut off and the borders were closed and the pandemic swept the land and everything, that's not going to affect these people that much. That you have options,
Right. Speaking of farmers markets, I think it's the most underrated community engagement that there is, honestly, because you get at least one day a week where your entire town or your entire community comes in and shares what they have, and everyone's out spending money and having a good time, alcohol, everything's fresh. You're meeting new people and fostering relationships with your neighbors and your community. That stuff I think people really don't attend to as much as they used to. And I think that's kind of a lost value, but I love seeing it. I try to go to farmers markets as much as I possibly can. There's no better way to really engage with your community than at a gathering like that. Obviously I wouldn't go right now with all the COVID concerns, but in general, it's definitely a good way to have community engagement, foster that, those relationships and that entrepreneurial spirit and getting out and sharing what you have.
A lot of people that only know the city might romanticize this notion and think that, oh, maybe someday I'll get to do that or whatever, but they can't in their minds connect where they are now to that. They don't know what the process to get there would be, and it seems scary because all the questions come up like, would I still have the same standard of living and what's involved in achieving that? Would I still be able to have the same kind of job? Is there Wi-Fi out there? These things come. And so for real estate developers, this is an opportunity. You just put together packages that assure people that are used to all those things that yes, you can have all those things in a nice, convenient little package outside of the city in the farming experience or something like that. Because I think a lot of what is going to sell new projects is going to be the experience that comes with it. Because houses are houses, they're whatever, right? But
and I think that's part of the laziness of consumer markets, though. Most people they'll sit at home by their phone and they'll be like, well, I wonder when I'm going to get a letter from the power company, or I wonder what website I need to go to pay my water bill, or how do I get my gas turned on without leaving my house. when,
Right.
you know, in smaller communities, that like what you guys have, and what you're trying to put together, I mean, people should be going to community panels and stuff. You know, they should be voicing their concern. If they want water ran to their house, I mean, that's a good place to go to, you know, make a note of that. And then, you know, that service will probably be offered. You know, I mean, people just don't engage like they used to.
Right.
It's like a lost art.
And I mean, that's also a way to reveal shortcomings that could be addressed yourself. You know, you don't have to leave everything up to town council to do. Like if there's an issue with getting water out to a particular property or something, then maybe the right thing to do is not pester them to run a line out. Maybe the right thing to do is to drill wells, you know, and put up a tower, and, you know, but you won't know that unless you ask and figure out what the situation is.
Yeah, the people will worry about services that aren't offered in these type of community scenarios. They'll worry about what kind of work they'll have to do. I mean, it's kind of stupid. It's like, all right, well, what are you good at? That's what you offer the community. And then work hard at it, and you'll do very well, because, you know, you're going to corner that market. So I don't see what the issue is there. Just be entrepreneurial. And then on the other side of it, if you need something, then voice it. You know, it's probably something that most people need anyways. Especially
during times of upheaval and crisis, like when the blood is running in the streets, you know, that's the time to buy. Well, right now there's so many opportunities. Like if you just put together a basic hazmat suit, you know, you can do so much for people that are afraid to leave their houses. You can be an errand boy. You can be a delivery boy. You can drive Uber. You know, like there's so much to be done right now.
I know, and that's when I was talking about the innovation yesterday with my friend Clement, because this is going to be a time where you have a huge opportunity with a new target market like we probably haven't seen in a long time, where everyone is stuck at home. Everyone is in self-quarantine. Right. So how do you target them? What do they need? What service or product can you provide them? And I think the real entrepreneurs, the smart people that are ambitious, are going to see a huge opportunity in that. And I think we'll see some cool things come out of that, whether it's from the bigger companies, you know, like Netflix and Amazon and Facebook and whatnot, or, you know, people starting up startups that, you know, maybe offer a special pizza delivery service in hazmats, or that, you know, offer a new app that keeps you incredibly entertained, or some type of media that allows people to engage remotely, like Zoom, but maybe something more interactive that maybe you play games on. I feel like there'll be all kinds of developments in this relatively short period of time, because people are stuck at home with all their cash. They just pulled it all out.
And you can have fun with it, you know, like, okay, at first, the idea of running around delivering pizzas in a hazmat suit sounds kind of freaky, but
it's funny.
Have fun with it, man. Put glitter and rainbow crap all over your suit and dance around as you're delivering it. Just have fun, you know. Like,
hazmat pizza.
There you go. Whatever.
Hazmat tacos or something like that. But yeah, exactly. And, you know, I mean, you have millions of people that will be stuck at home, that are bored, that have a lot of cash, and that have too much shit. And they're going to be curious. So, I mean, there's a huge opportunity for people that want to jump on that. And, you know, just thinking about it on my own, and I get so many ideas, and I'm like, who's going to do this? Someone's got to try one of these things. They'd make so much money.
And people's mentality in shock panic situations tends to kind of swing like a pendulum. Like a lot of people, they'll think, okay, what do I have that I don't need that I can sell for some quick cash that I can survive on? So you're going to see a lot of like hobby stuff going up for sale on Craigslist and eBay and whatever, like people selling their musical instruments and their sports cars and all the stuff that they don't really need that they can liquidate. And then things are going to go on for a while, and they're going to get bored and wish they had their toys back. So
yes. Yeah, people are panicking and thinking also at the same time, what haven't I bought? What am I not thinking about? I know I'm not thinking about something. They're all freaking out. So it's an opportunity for you to inject what you think that they need.
And a lot of things a lot of things that they want are really simple things too. Like there's a huge demand for hand sanitizer. Well, okay, so fire up the moonshine gin and get cracking. You know?
You make special hand sanitizer that has like a fruity smell or something. You know, make your own concoction, do something unique.
Yeah, you have some flowers out back. You can add a fragrance or something.
Yeah, and put a small premium on it for the little extra you're going out of your way to do for them. And, you know, people will pay for it. They have cash. They're sitting at home bored with cash. They're going to spend it. You just have to provide something that, you know, that will satisfy their boredom and their needs. I've been actually looking into manufacturers for like N95 masks. And stuff like that, so that I could buy a whole bunch of them, and then we do something creative with them down here in Medellin before things get crazy. And like the N95s are great and they're cheap, but the N99s they're a little bit more stylish. They're washable. They fit very snugly, so they don't like irritate your face, your ears, or shit like that. You know, I think the most important part is that it is a little bit more stylish. And for maybe $30 more, I mean, it's worth buying if you're bored and, you know, and you have cash.
Oh yeah, so, for sure. I can see a market for like designer masks that are a couple $100 even. You know, like tricked out Black Plague doctor masks and stuff like that.
I got one right here. There you go. Got a full mesh. It's got a little breathing filter so you can actually breathe. It's nice on the inside. You can rewash it.
Yeah, because like after the first few weeks, you're going to see a lot of people coming to terms with it and getting comfortable with it and trying to have fun with it, you know? Yeah, there you go.
It's just this is just a blue one, but they have all kinds of designs and whatnot. The Cambridge Mask Company, if anyone is interested, I definitely recommend them. They got pretty cool product.
Oh, cool.
And it's very affordable. They come in different designs. You can get some wacky color combinations. You get like camo, like anything that kind of fits your personality. And I'm not plugging them because they're a sponsor. I'm plugging them because I like it.
Even better.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and buy a whole bunch of those and see where, you know, the market might need some of that at some point here in beautiful Medellin. And you get an opportunity for me to start up a business and have like at least some agenda for now.
Yeah. And one more idea to throw out there for anyone that's looking for inspiration, especially now it's still kind of early in a lot of places. There's still plenty of cities that don't have cases yet, or maybe there's only one or so. But like there was this one dude that hopped on a plane and came down to Temuco, and he was the first case in this region. And of course, that wasn't good enough. He then had to hop on a bus and go to this other one town. And it's like, okay, everybody would very much appreciate it if this one dude would just stop whatever the hell he's doing. Okay, I don't know what could be so important, and just hold yourself up and, you know, be considerate to everyone else. And in situations where it is only one guy or maybe a couple or something, I think there would be plenty of people that would be willing to bring by care packages and drop them off as like thank you gift baskets and stuff for this dude, and like give him some moral support and, you know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. That would be nice. And that's what we should do, but we don't live in that world, unfortunately. You know, in smaller communities, that's much more of a reality, but it's unfortunately just not. It's also like expecting 330 million Americans to all stay at home. They're not going to all stay at home. A small percentage will actually stay at home, and it'll probably be the elderly, and people are still going to be out and about, because you can't just shut things down. You can't just shut business down. You can't just shut commerce down for weeks, maybe even months on end. It's just not how society works. You know, I mean, yes, there'll be a very large market of people stuck at home self-quarantining with a lot of cash or board, but that doesn't mean they aren't going to get out of the house. You can't keep people locked up in their houses. It's another reality.
Yeah, and there might be opportunity going back to real estate development. Like if somebody wants to design housing for people that are concerned about this kind of stuff. Like, there's probably people out there that would really appreciate knowing that their condo board had a very good disaster plan or emergency response plan for things like this, with features in all of the units that would like seal up and filter all the air and provide filtered water, like basically providing the peace of mind that preppers have without having to be a prepper,
Well, it'd be nice if everyone was like mildly a natural prepper, then everyone would be somewhat sufficiently prepared. Problem is no one is. And these companies don't prepare. They don't have stockpiles. The government, the U.S. government, doesn't prepare for these kinds of disasters very well. They don't have a stockpile, at least that we know of.
Right.
Maybe a military stockpile, but that's it. I mean, individuals in general and families, we don't stockpile. We don't prepare.
This is one of those rare things, though, that a government could do in a decentralized fashion. Like, instead of having centralized stockpiles, you just mandate a basic template, like, here's your standard kit that comes with some essentials that will last a long time, a survival rifle, maybe a hazmat suit, just some basic stuff, a mask and whatever, and everyone has a kit, every household.
Yeah, they don't like to do that, though. I mean, they don't like to fearmonger. They don't like to prep. They want society to function in a bubble.
Right.
Because you can control that. If you encourage your citizens on a mass scale to be independent and sovereign and be a proud American, in the real meaning of being a proud American, not being a proud American and worship the flag, but you all of a sudden become a much bigger threat to the government, and you start taking away a lot of the power the federal government has, and you start getting back to state rights, and you start getting back to community rights, and they don't want that. They don't want that. Like,
what was that line in V for Vendetta, right? I want everyone to remember why they need us.
Exactly. They don't want that. The government's power comes from, people being under lock and key and controlled in a lot of ways, and being
dependent. Yeah. For sure. Well, we'll have to check in again before too long. I'm sure things will be in a constant state of flux here for a little while.
Oh, yes, they will. I'll be in contact with you for sure. Keep me updated on what's happening in Chile. I'll do the same for Colombia. And good talk, man. Yeah, it's great.
And when the borders open up again, you'll have to drop on by and check the place out.
Yeah. Are they closing down the borders just all around, or just specific areas?
Yeah.
All the borders?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can dig a tunnel underneath or something, right to Fort Galt.
Dig under the Andes. How hard can it be?
Exactly.
Just don't try getting through the desert, because there's still a bunch of landmines up there.
Great. Yeah. All right. I'll let you go, man. Great talk and everything.
Take care.
You too, bro.